Hello, everyone. Welcome to Third Thursday. This is PickFu's monthly chat with our co-founders, John Lee and Justin Chen.
Good morning.
Today, we are really excited to talk about how mobile games use PickFu. And what's really interesting is that, game developers and game development in general has so many data points. I mean, it's just a wash in data. But the thing is, data is just numbers, right? It doesn't really give you a sense of the feelings or the sentiments behind those numbers. And especially if you don't have users yet, if you are still in the early stages of your game concept, or you're still kind of developing your characters, developing your storyline, you don't have users yet. So all you really have is a bunch of people in a room that might be right, they might be on the right track, but how do you know? And what we've seen is that PickFu is a great way to answer that question. So we are going to go through a few examples of how that happens. If you are watching live, I invite you to use the comments in Facebook and YouTube. You can ask questions. You can just say hi. I mean, that's fine. And, we will respond. But if you're watching the replay, same thing. Feel free to ask questions. We will get to you. It might take a little bit longer, but we will get to your questions. You can also go to this link and submit questions for us to answer in our next session. And at that link, if you see some of the examples and you're inspired, but you're not really sure, give us something that you'd like us to poll, and we'll poll it for you. So let's dive in. I kind of want to take a look at, like I said, some really early examples of game concepts and art styles. So John, I'm going to ask you to take us through the first example.
Sure thing. So one of the best uses of PickFu for when you're developing a mobile game is to start early in the process and basically test and validate your art styles and your game concepts. So here on the screen, we see a 2-option head-to-head poll where the question is, which idle RPG game would you rather play and why? And what you're seeing on the options here are that there are two vastly different art styles. You have a darker theme on the left and sort of a brighter, greener theme on the right. Now, if you look more closely, you can see that the game themselves, the gameplay itself is probably going to be pretty similar, but just by changing the art style, you get a drastic difference in sort of the feel of the game. And in this case, on this poll, the poller asked 50 respondents who are mobile gamers. So they use the mobile gaming targeting on PickFu to make sure that they were really hitting their target audience. What was interesting in this poll is that if you look at the comments, there were option A won by 29 to 21 votes. And if you kind of group the comments and browse them, a lot of the reasons why the respondents who chose option A gave was that they talked about the darker forest theme and how that was kind of a little more appealing, sort of that sort of deeper, darker, that mood that was set from that darker graphic was more appealing to them. And I think there was one respondent that talked about how the darker theme looks more spooky, a better theme of the character design, and like the dark colors make it look a little more mysterious and exciting. So hopefully the customer who ran this poll got some really great feedback out of this, and probably the next step in their case, it wouldn't necessarily be to just wholesale throw out one theme or the other, but usually really we would recommend taking the insight that you get from the respondents, iterating on the design and the direction you wish to go on, and then running another poll. But the biggest thing, the most important takeaway from here is that the earlier you test in the process, the more sort of, the more de-risking is going to happen for your product, right? Or your game. Like your game is a long journey from here to launch. And so by testing earlier with your game concepts and so on, you're helping yourself make sure that you're on the right path.
Yeah. Another one of the very early decisions you make, and probably one of your most important marketing assets, I would think, is what you name this game. So, Justin, why don't you take us through this example?
Yeah, sure. So naming a game, it's kind of like naming your business, and it's one of the first things that, like you said, people do. The trouble with the names is that a lot of people come in with preconceptions of, oh, this is what the game's going to be called, and they just kind of go with that. It's really important to get feedback from your target audience on how they interpret what your name means. And so in this case, we have someone testing two names, Idle Realm versus Idle Domain. And they actually ran a poll against 50 mobile gamers. As you can see, option A was a pretty resounding victory. I'd be curious to know from our customer which one they thought was going to win. But typically what we do here is that the one that they thought was going to win is usually the one that doesn't win. So in this case, option A, a lot of the respondents liked the fact that it was talking about a realm, and for something that might refer to a royal kingdom or some kind of game like that made more sense in domain. And a lot of people actually got confused with the word domain because, for more tech savvy people, domain was more like a web domain. And so that didn't really fit the theme of a game. Let's see. So let me see if there's any other interesting feedback there. Yeah, I mean, I think it was more around the realm that people liked it. So you can take this as, like John said, you can either take this wholesale as a decision, or you can keep iterating. Now that you know realm works, maybe you choose other words kind of in that same theme and run some more PickFu polls.
Yeah, I thought that this example with idle domain was so interesting because, you are so in your head, you're designing this game, you're not even thinking about a website, right? But we're saying like idle domain sounds like a 404 error, like a mistake. I mean, these are things that, you might not have even thought of. And so I think that that's part of the reason it's so valuable to kind of get outside your bubble a little bit and really just make sure you're on the right track. The next example I'm going to show is a really common use for PickFu as well, and that is your app icon. And this is a poll that John ran actually for a game. And interestingly, this smiley face, which is option B, is the game's current app icon. But what he did was he took a couple of other designs that this same game had, have just on the internet just to kind of see. And so we've got this smiley face, which is, the current app icon. And then we've got these two skulls. And we tested it with 50 mobile gamers who have spent money in the App Store. And by kind of a blowaway margin, people were like, we like the skull better. And they might have been split on which skull they like better, but they definitely liked the skull better than the smiley face. And I think that that's really interesting. A lot of people said, it's the eye patch is really cute, or it looks cool. One woman said the skull in option A is way more interesting and unique. And it makes more sense for a fighting game, which was another thing that I think, our respondents are really good about kind of picking out. It's like, well, if you tell me this is a battle game, then what looks like a battle, right? Does a smiley face look like a battle? Not really. And so, I think that this is a really good example too, where it's like maybe your game is already successful, but maybe you want to think about a different character to feature or, something along those lines. I'll show you a secondary example to kind of bring it to life. So there's this game called Animal Hospital, right? Awesome. And we've got all of these different icons, but like, which animal would you rather see? That is so subjective, right? For me personally, I might want to see a dog. You might want to see a cat. But it looks like this audience of 50 people between 18 and 34, well, they want to see a panda. And, these are decisions that, why make it in a vacuum, right? And I think that that's just really good information to know as you go into launch. And before I go any further, I would just like to say we have a great guide on our blog for how to design app icons. So if you are in this stage of development, I definitely would refer you to that link. Justin, John, anything to add to app icons?
Yeah, so this is both of these polls that you pulled up are really interesting examples, because in the mobile game space, there's actually what has become now a conventional wisdom that app icons with characters, that the games do better when they have their mouths open. Now, this was an article that was actually posted a couple of years ago, but I think it has become sort of conventional wisdom. And so if you're building some kind of mobile game and you have a character on the icon, your default might be to just have that icon with an open mouth. It could be the dog in the corner over here, or in the previous app icon, the one that was actually used that's actually being used is the one with the open mouth. But one size doesn't necessarily fit all when it comes to conventional wisdom. So even if you may tend to think that, oh, this is the default, we should go this way, it might be worth actually trying to run a poll, or at least testing your assumption there. It may be true that that open mouth is the thing that's going to win, but at least now you can be more sure.
Yeah, I'd be curious if that was the reasoning why they chose the open mouth. And the dog was actually quite close with the open mouth, but I think the cuteness of the panda just overwhelms it. The other thing I'll add about this kind of testing is that it's not just for the app icons. It's also trying to gauge what character people like for your general marketing, right? So if you know that you're going to be marketing a number of characters, or maybe the game involves different characters or animals, maybe it's the panda that resonates well generally for marketing purposes. So this is really interesting insight, and obviously you should do more tests on the marketing creatives that you're working on. But maybe the panda is what you lead with your ads and your other screenshots and what other collateral you're making.
Yeah, and maybe even if you do say, okay, well, we should lead with the panda. Which panda? Should the panda have, the ice compress on his head? Should the panda, be licking his paw? What should the panda be doing, right? So there's all kinds of decisions that you can make just around, stuff like this. So again, just going through, just those ideas of marketing assets, one of the things that I think is really important, especially once you get into the App Store, is screenshots. So what's going on in this one?
Yeah, so this was a really interesting poll. So this was one I ran. It was actually recreating an actual case of what a customer was doing, where they were trying to figure out which app store screenshots to use. And in the app stores, in the Play stores, you have a specific number of screenshots you can use, and you can put them in a specific order. So what we're doing here is that the customer actually put up a whole bunch of different options for their screenshots, tested them in a ranked choice poll, and targeted 50 mobile gamers who had spent money on the App Store. The point here is, the goal here of the poll was to figure out which screenshot is the one that you put first? Which one is your primary screenshot that's going to gather the most attention? Because I think the stat is that most gamers only spend 3 seconds on an app store, like looking at an app listing. So you have 3 seconds to capture that gamer's attention with the combination of icon, name, description, and your screenshots taking up the most real estate. So your screenshot matters a lot. Now, in this case, we have 4 different screenshots, each one talking about, they're all very high quality screenshots. This is pulled from the same game as the poll that Kim pulled from. All very high quality screenshots, each one calling out a specific aspect of the game that they're trying to sell, like a specific unique selling point. So in this case, you see the option D was the winner of this ranked choice vote. And some of the comments were pretty interesting, because a lot of the comments that chose option D were basically talking about how it actually shows the gameplay. If this is a battle royale game, or some kind of, as in the question, it says a battle game, most of the response were like, this is a battle game. This shows how the game is going to be played. If you're going to be playing this, if you're considering downloading this, you want an idea of what you're going to be getting. And so here's like an example was letting them see the game, whereas C, B, A don't really show you the game. C and B, you kind of like still brings up unique points, and then A of multiple game modes, that may not necessarily be the most unique selling point of this particular game. So following up on this poll, if I was the developer, you could either take these results and just go with it and order them in this order, or another option is to take that winning option, option D, and do a mock-up of the entire listing with your desired app icon, with your game name, and could do a couple variations of that and see how those perform.
Yeah. Yeah, and then speaking again just about that listing, the last piece of the puzzle is that app description.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the app description is also really important to kind of convey more of those unique selling points of the game. And so with this one, we're using the same game as Kim's app icon one and John's for the screenshots. And we pulled the bullet points and asked them to rank their preference among the features of the game. And so we're doing 50 respondents, mobile gamers who spend money in the App Store, and we asked them to, which features would make them want to download this battle game. Pretty clearly, option A and D were the top winners, and a lot of the comments were around the fact that it highlighted the multiple game modes and that you could have fun either by yourself or with others. And so that was a really interesting point that they brought out, and that's that should obviously be the first thing that they emphasize in the bullet points. Option D was around the fact that the game constantly evolved, and the fact that there were new skins and new player maps and all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting to see that people who are interested in this kind of game, like, they want to see the multiple game modes, they want to see the constant evolution. Not as interesting about the unlocking and upgrading brawlers and the star player aspect. So that's something that you may want to consider, not only for the bullet points, but this may feed back into the screenshots that you have and what features you're highlighting there.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me about this is constantly evolving and unlock and upgrade brawlers are almost shades of the same thing. But just the idea of a constant evolution just sort of, I guess, sounds, more appealing to people.
Yeah. I mean, one of the respondents called out that one of the worst things about playing a game is getting bored with it once you've mastered all the levels or passed all the challenges. It's nice to know that there's always something new and exciting to look forward to. So that's great feedback for anyone who's making a game.
Definitely. Yeah. So I hope that this has given you a lot of ideas for how to use PickFu to improve your mobile game. I'm going to wrap up just with a few more examples. I'll kind of just go through them in sort of rapid fire succession. But if you have any questions or any comments, I invite you to input them now. And just don't forget to go to this link and submit your poll, and maybe we'll discuss it next month. So just a few more examples. I mean, again, you can use PickFu really like anywhere you are in your game development process. So this is literally a pencil sketch. And, this is, just the idea of a storyline. So which storyline would you rather do, or would you rather play in a mobile game about magic? Or what about character development? We have this really great case study. This comes from a game called Super 80s World. Which character would you rather be? I think that's really fun. And, and as you're designing these sort of 8-bit characters, like, you're so close to it, you might just love all the characters that you design. So how do you know? How do you pick? Let's see what else. What's really fun too is you don't have to just do, the in-game assets. You can think about promotional artwork. So this is for a shooter game, right? Which kind of looks cooler? What do you think is going to draw people's eyes, to your game? And then what's also really great is you can you can think about, just things within your game. So this is a virtual currency. Would you rather call them coins or would you rather call them G-Bucks? And what was interesting here was a lot of people said like groin sounds like groin, or it sounds like loin. It's kind of just weird sounding, and obviously the game maker was going for coin, but didn't quite hit. Right. And
so I think that just to touch on that, I think anything with naming, whether it's in-game currency or going back to the game names, I think it's really important to, especially for people who are developing not in the target country that they're marketing to do these kinds of tests to see, is the word that we're targeting, which maybe makes sense in translation, to them, it actually makes sense to the target audience. So we have a lot of overseas developers in other countries, and testing to the US audience is really important to make sure that there's not weird connotations with the names.
Absolutely. And we've seen some funny connotations. And then this is just, again, like just a screen within, like which shop would you rather do? So when you're thinking about color, when you're thinking about graphics, what's really great too is you don't just have to work with still images. This is just an animation style, right? So again, going back to super 80s world, I mean, like what would you rather, how would you rather see this guy walk? I mean, there's just so many things that you can do. You can test music, you can test sound effects, you can test voiceover, you can test your trailer, you can test any of those things. So I think that there's definitely a wide world of possibility in the game development space. And, we hope that this video helped you explore it. So that's going to do it for this month's Third Thursday. But I definitely, like I said, I invite you to go to that link, enter your poll, ask questions, and we will get to them next time. See you next month, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.